presidency of Donald Trump has pitted liberals and conservatives against each other with protests, marches, and scathing fourth-grade art projects. But in California, liberal activist Marcus Ruiz Evans has a bold new idea for relieving the tension.
California could simply leave America and become a nation.
California is supposed to be chill, but this doesn't sound very chill.
This maverick wants California to divorce the United States, and he's aiming to put California's secession on November's ballot. Marcus and his organization, called Yes California, say their state has a unique identity that's separate from America.
You have two cultures that are vastly different, with California values versus American values.
But what were these vast differences?
California is the place that welcomes immigrants.
So do you have a big statue up that says, "Bring me your poor, you're tired, you're weak"?
We have the Golden Gate Bridge.
So California's Statue of Liberty is just longer, you can drive on it, and people also commit suicide off it quite frequently.
So what else you got?
The idea of national parks, we invented that.
Yep.
The idea of clean air, those sort of big ideas.
So you want to create a country that believes in big ideas.
Yes.
And wants to welcome immigrants. It sounds to me like you're stealing America's ideas.
We are.
Original idea or not, this bear fondler has collected thousands of signatures supporting his plan. But Northern California radio host and computer hoarder Paul Preston thinks Yes California is a bad idea.
Well, Yes California is not going to work. Californians are all Americans, and Americans first.
Finally, a reasonable person. And Paul has a simple plan to fix all this California conflict.
We're creating New California.
And what is New California?
Well, we want to take California and split it into two states.
I mean, hey, it worked for Israel and Palestine. Right?
That's right.
Come on!
So instead of losing one California, we gain two Californias. And surprise, surprise, Paul claims his California has its own unique identity.
When I think of California, I think of Botox, crystals, milk that comes from nuts. What am I missing?
California, at its core, is a conservative state, but those people have been suppressed.
Although 8 million Californians voted for Hillary, 4 million voted for Trump. So for them, Paul gerrymandered a second conservative California, one without Hollywood, Silicon Valley, or wine country?
This is the fun California, and this is the shit California. Why do you want the shit California?
We believe that that's the best part of California. It's based on ruralness.
It's got to feel nice once you separate to be free from all that excessive tax revenue over there in Silicon Valley and Los Angeles County.
Well, we'll have San Diego County.
So, San Diego, is that because you want to keep the Chargers, or?
They're gone.
You don't even have the fucking Chargers?
But there's one person who doesn't like this two-state solution.
We're going to campaign for every county in California to stay part of California.
What do you say to all those Californians that voted for Trump?
You're welcome to leave if you don't like it.
That's what Americans believe. If you don't want to be in America, then get out.
Well,
you stole that too.
Wow, liberals and conservatives in this state really are at odds. But how bad can it be?
My biggest fear is a lot of people are going to die, which is what happened in the Civil War.
Now we're talking Civil War?
That's not California. Californians are hippies.
Will it be hard to fight a civil war if you don't eat protein or believe in guns? New California, we'll bomb the shit out of you guys.
They won't.
They will. And this Civil War has more than two sides. In the course of shooting this piece, novelty tie enthusiast Tim Draper has introduced a third initiative to split California into 3 states.
We're trying to create states for the next millennium.
And guess who doesn't like the idea of a 3-way besides my girlfriend?
It's better for California if California sticks together.
We shouldn't let our differences tear California apart. We should let your differences tear America apart.
That's a tough one.
But which out-of-the-box plan did Californians actually want? I headed for Venice Beach to find out.
I don't think they should be their own country. I think that's pretty stupid.
Okay, they don't like the liberal plan, so they must be conservative.
What do you see here? Do you see a Muslim man who's trying to take an American job?
He's a comedian.
But he's a Muslim comedian. I mean, how come he gets all the best segments, you know?
Because he's funny.
You know what? We're going to edit that.
These liberals are so impossible. Maybe we should split up the state.
If you're a liberal, stay on the blue side. If you're a conservative, stay on the right side, please. Okay? Make America great again, buddy.
This is working for Korea, isn't it? South Korea, North Korea.
赤は北朝鮮ですよ。
Oh, no. Seems like the only thing Californians can agree on is how stupid all of these plans are. Oh, and legalizing weed. I got 2 hours before the flight, so let me go investigate that story.
Why have wildfires been so bad in recent years? Well, if you immediately said, duh, climate change, well, then okay, you're mostly right.
It's a disastrous new normal. Catastrophic fires, once contained to one season, now a harrowing year-round battle.
We gotta go.
A major factor, climate change. In the last 40 years, fall temperatures in California have increased about 2 degrees, while precipitation has dropped about 30%.
Longer dry seasons and extreme events like heat waves that synchronize the risk of fire across enormous landscapes.
Climate change is increasing the area burned by the average wildfire, more than doubling it since the 1980s.
Since 1930, 5 of the biggest fires so far, out of the top 10, have been this year.
California is America fast forward. In other words, a postcard from the future.
Oh man, are you serious? California is basically a postcard from the future? That means the future is also on fire? I mean, it also means that the post office is still functioning in the future, so I guess, woo, we did it. And that really is mind-blowing. 5 of the biggest fires have been this year? That's insane. Although this is 2020, so I'm kind of shocked that all of the biggest fires haven't been from this year. Wildfires might be here to stay, which is awful for humans, but especially bad for trees. Because they can't move. Humans can just run away from a wildfire, but trees, they're just stuck there. Can you imagine how terrifying that must be for them? Ah! 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 Now, there are a number of ways that climate change makes wildfires bigger and more frequent. For instance, not only does drier wood and leaves make better fuel for fires, but hot weather is also associated with increasing lightning strikes that ignite them. In fact, even small things about climate change can have a huge ripple effect that leads to fires. And I mean really small things.
Millions of drought-stressed trees in California forests were low on sap, which is their natural defense against the bark beetle.
These are these little tiny bugs about the size of a grain of rice.
Bark beetle infestation is linked to global warming. As the weather gets warmer, they burrow into the bark of pine trees. They kill the pine trees. The pine trees then essentially become sticks of kindling ready to burn.
The beetles took down more than 160 million trees, and that's where some of the largest fires are burning today.
Yeah, believe it or not, people, the spread of the tiny bark beetle is yet another way that climate change is making wildfires worse. It's also a great reminder that even though climate change is really bad for us humans, for some other creatures it's the best thing that ever happened. It's like how the Trump administration has been a disaster for most people, but great for various reptiles. And I gotta be honest, I never thought the apocalypse would be caused by such a lame villain. I mean, really, guys, beetles are gonna be the reason everything's on fire? Come on, man. The last season of Game of Thrones was bad enough when Daenerys was burning everything down with dragons. Now imagine if she had beetles instead. That shit would make the Bran storyline seem exciting. Ugh. Let's get back to the kid who's like a bird or something. I don't watch these beetles. So yes, we have to address climate change. But the truth is, climate change isn't the only reason that these fires have been getting worse. There's also at least a century of government stupidity.
Controlled fire or prescribed fire is the method of burning certain land to reduce wildfire hazards. This method was developed by Native Americans thousands of years ago. These low-intensity fires, called cultural burnings, that built much of California's forests. Without controlled burns, forests would have become overgrown and unmanageable. Overgrown forests create a lot of fuel in the form of dry or dead plants. As European colonization grew in California, native tribes were banned from engaging in cultural burning, and over time, state and federal authorities focused on quickly extinguishing any wildfires. For example, the U.S. Forest Service's infamous 10 a.m. policy said that any fires that occurred must be put out by 10 a.m. the next day. This limit on fires did little to reduce the fuel that was growing on the forest floor. And even with these policies, California still has fuel loads waiting to be burned from centuries ago, making prescribed burning far more tedious and expensive than previously thought.
Yeah, you heard that right. One thing that would help out a lot is if California had been doing more controlled burns, which is basically when you burn a little to prevent a lot from burning later. It's the same way you meet your college friend for coffee, so that you don't have to have a 3-hour dinner with them. And you have to admit, it's pretty unbelievable that California is now doing what they outlawed the native people from doing. I guess it's kind of hard, though, to kick somebody off their land and take their advice at the same time. This is my property now, you savage! Oh, also, before you go, do you have any landscaping tips, like any mulching techniques or things that I have to learn? Now, obviously, it's bad enough that wildfires are burning millions and millions of trees. But what makes it an especially big problem for people is that we've been giving the fires a lot more of our stuff to burn.
Since 1990, 60% of all the homes in the United States have been built in the wildland-urban interface.
We've got houses in places we didn't used to have houses, and that puts people and property at risk.
As more houses are built near wildlands, more of them burn. 50 years ago, wildfires destroyed a few hundred structures per year across the United States. Now it's more than 3,000.
In California alone, more than 6 million houses are in wild areas.
Because urban housing is so expensive, instead of avoiding these high-risk zones, Californians continue to build in a tinderbox of grass and trees boxed by Windy Canyon.
Instead of Smokey Bear in the middle of the woods, we need a Smokey Bear in the middle of suburbia.
You do yourself a favor, Smokey Bear, and you stay out of the suburbs. We don't want Karen calling the cops on you. Hello, 911? There's a bear in my neighborhood, and he's brown. But yes, one big problem is that more and more people are building homes in the middle of the forest. And let's place the blame where it belongs here, with the Keebler elves. Yeah, these guys made living in the forest look so cool that everyone started doing it. You get to be in a tree making cookies all day, sounds great, but guess what? Those cookies are covered with beetles. And if we're honest here, guys, one of the bigger issues is human arrogance. We just think we can build wherever we go. Wherever we build a house, that's our land now. It's the same way people in Florida are always surprised when alligators show up. Oh, there's an alligator in my backyard. No, there's a person in that alligator's house. But the good news is, we can fix these problems. Yeah, believe it or not, the wildfires don't have to happen the way they have been. We can stop them if we take action to reduce climate change. We can stop them if we maintain the forests. And we can stop them if we build in environmentally sensitive ways. And as for those beetles, you leave them to me.
Compton, California has long had a reputation as one of the most dangerous places in America to be a young black person. In fact, Compton's homicide rate is more than 4.5 times the national average. But here, there's a group who believes that they have the secret to keeping kids off the streets. Meet the Compton Cowboys. Literally, black people in Compton, on horses, in traffic, wearing sandals with socks. Because that's perfectly normal. The Compton Cowboys began in the 1980s as the Compton Junior Posse, an after-school horseback riding program at a farm in the middle of the city. The founder, Maisha Akbar, described it this way.
We were in competition with gangs, so we had to provide the same things that gangs did. Camaraderie, an extended family, a safe haven.
Maisha retired in 2017, but many members of the posse are still spreading her message and some fertilizer. All right, so basically your gang, instead of bandanas and gang signs, y'all just leave horse shit everywhere around the neighborhood.
That's how we mark our terrain,
Stop
man.
slobbering on me.
That's how we leave our mark.
But you're still a black man riding a half-ton animal through the hood. How are the cops not all up in your horse's butt?
You seen Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Yo, that's how it is with the horse. It's like putting on a cloak. Like, with the gangbangers and the police. Like,
so you just become invisible to all the bullshit.
I was just about to say that.
Can I have some of the weed you smoking?
Yeah. I love to share, man.
Cowboy Lil Wayne is right. Even if you're riding with a buzz, it's not like your horse is gonna have a broken tail light, and the cops damn sure ain't searching that trunk. But horses don't just protect people on the outside. Turns out, they can heal you on the inside.
We're all traumatized, from, seeing the shit that we see, people getting shot around you, people dying. And I can't even tell you how many conversations I've had with people who say, man, my horse saved me.
Kiara, the first cowgirl among the Compton Cowboys, is one of those people.
My little brother was killed to gang violence 4 years ago. Sometimes when I can't function or
articulate my words and just really in a bad mood. When I just go to my horse, it's just that energy is just so peaceful.
It's clear that taking care of horses can have a life-changing effect. I needed to fire my therapist and stock up on oats. But what's the first step to creating this beautiful bond between man and horse?
First thing we gotta do is gotta clean the stalls. Gotta clean the poop up. You ready to clean the poop? You open the poop up, make sure they don't got no runs or worms. This right here is a good one. See how it's nice and solid, you know, running through.
I'd rather get jumped by the bloods than touch shit. Let's skip all this turd whispering. Time for this cowboy to saddle up. Yeehaw. Did I say that right?
Squeeze with this leg, and you'll go that way.
Squeeze to the left leg?
Take the rein that way, like that. Take your right hand and go that way.
Okay, I went left. That's fine. I wanted to go left. I was so good, they gave me my own travel-size starter horse. And now that I was an official member, I could give them some branding advice. Y'all need a handshake. CJP.
I'll let you make the noise.
Okay, this cowboy shit makes for a nice little hobby. But one Compton cowboy thinks you could also make it a career as a bareback rider.
I rodeo professionally.
But I mean, that's not like rapping or being an athlete or a comedian. Like
I would be considered a professional athlete.
So you professional.
Yeah.
Paycheck, cable bill,
cash money,
light bill from a
You
horse.
win, they pay you. You just ride for 8 seconds and they judge you on who ride the best.
You gotta go bareback and see if you can last 8 seconds.
I guess you could call it that, yeah.
I can't make it 8 seconds bareback.
Oh, shit.
In fact, bareback riding is 30 times more dangerous than pro football. But no one gets a helmet, not even the horse. And Trey is one of the top 50 riders worldwide, so I had to see him in action. Then, shit got really real. Oh, snap, no! Come on, Trey, get up, come on.
Hey, watch yourself!
But suddenly, he was back on his feet. I had to go thank him for not dying. I got no words for you, man. Other than respect, man.
Good shit happens. I'm gonna hit harder. I'm gonna get hit harder going down the road.
Oh my God. These Compton cowboys are some of the bravest, toughest, highest, craziest people I've ever met. But there was still one thing about Mr. Rodeo that I didn't get. You are black and you grew up around danger. Why would you add more danger on top of your danger? That's like a triple cheeseburger of danger.
I would much rather get hurt that way and go out and be up because a bareback horse me up than get shot out here.
CJP, baby. CJP.
No, I can't. I can't give it that right there. You could do that there.
Okay, that's what's up. That's good. That's good.
America has been waking up to the way police specifically target black people. And now, some Los Angeles police officers are facing the consequences.
Well, State Attorney General Javier Becerra has revoked access to records generated by the LAPD for the Cow Gang database. LAPD Chief Michael Moore withdrew from that program after an internal audit uncovered significant misuse of the gang tracking tool. Criminal charges have been filed against 3 officers accused of falsifying records. The department believes those people that officers stopped were labeled as gang members or gang associates. More than a dozen officers are still under investigation.
Holy shit. Cops in the LAPD have been charged with putting innocent people into a gang database. And the reason they allegedly did it is that the officers' performance reviews were based partly on how many gang members they dealt with each day. So to make their bosses happy, they just said everyone they stopped was in a gang. And this is basically the equivalent of putting your Fitbit on your dog to get your steps in. Except instead of cheating yourself, you're cheating innocent people's ability to get jobs or housing and undermining community trust in law enforcement. And you don't think about this, but this is bad news for the gangs too. I mean, think about those gangs. They thought their membership was way higher than it was. Recruitment is through the roof, guys. Now we can finally afford that pool table. And you see, this is one of the biggest problems with policing in America. Police are incentivized to create criminals and crime because they get paid if they do. If you pay them more, if there's more crime, they want to create more crime and more criminals. But if they lived in a system where they were trying to just protect and serve, they wouldn't need to do this. And this is the reality of being black in America. It's almost impossible not to get tangled up with the legal system in some way at some point in your life. And a new story out of Michigan shows how it can even happen to children.
A Michigan teenager reportedly had her probation revoked after she failed to complete online coursework for school. The 15-year-old, only identified as Grace, is now in a juvenile detention center. ProPublica reports she has been there for over a month and was originally sentenced to probation for stealing and fighting with her mother.
The judge in her ruling said this wasn't punishment. This was a way that she thought Oakland County could best help this girl. This student was placed in detention on May 14th. She remains there today.
This is truly one of the most fucked up stories I have ever seen. A 15-year-old steals something at school, gets put on probation, and now months later during the pandemic, she gets arrested and locked up because she didn't do her homework online. I mean, it's crystal clear at this point that this system is set up to punish people rather than help them. Because I don't know about you, but when I was in school, kids didn't get arrested for stealing. Like when I was in the 7th grade, Darlington Machila stole a Game Boy from Thiessen Pillay. But the school didn't call the police. The teachers just made us hold a fake trial in the classroom to see who was guilty. And then once we reached the verdict as kids, we decided that the punishment was death. Now look, in hindsight, I was a little extreme, especially considering that I was the one who actually stole the Game Boy. But the point is we handled it internally as a school. No need for police. If you ask me, the root cause of all of this is that in America, black children are not seen as children. Whether it's a 15-year-old girl in Michigan or Tamir Rice in Cleveland, American society acts like black people don't have children. They just give birth to smaller black adults who are born criminals. So look, it's clear that as much progress has been made recently, there's still a very long way to go in this country. And it doesn't help that the guy at the very top is still very much in denial.
President Trump attempting to shift the focus once again. He now says when it comes to police shootings of black Americans, white people have it worse.
Why are African Americans still dying at the hands of law enforcement in this country?
And so are white people. So are white people. What a terrible question to ask. So are white people. More white people, by the way. More white people.
Okay. Setting aside the fact that black people are disproportionately stopped, arrested, and killed by the police, what is Trump's argument here? Because this reporter was like, cops are killing a lot of black people, and Trump's response was, no, you idiot. They're killing everybody. These cops are lunatics. Blacks, whites, browns, all lives don't matter. I mean, it actually almost sounds like Trump is one step away from defunding the police because of how they treat white people. And you know what? I don't agree with his logic, but if it gets us to meaningful police reform, I'll take it. America has tried everything to prevent wildfires. And in California, they've gone way beyond talking bears.
We're finally learning some good news about the wildfires in California. Most of the fires still considered active are either well under control or almost out, thanks to the thousands of firefighters who have been battling the flames alongside hundreds of inmates.
You see all the firefighters in orange? Those are California inmates. This state has been using prisoners to fight fires since World War II.
Yeah, that is really, really interesting. Inmates in California can volunteer to help put out fires that have gotten out of control. And I think it's great that these prisoners are willing to help in a time of need. And just for extra motivation, I think they should be allowed to bring their squad from prison to hype them up as they fight the fire, you know? Yeah, they can just be standing in the back like, yo, get his ass, T-Bone! Extinguish this bitch! Remove either oxygen, fuel, or heat! That's what you do to stop a fire! Now, you would think any prisoner volunteering for a dangerous job like this would be in it for some big reward. But it turns out that's not the case.
Inmate firefighters get paid an average of $2 a day. When they're battling live fires, they earn an additional $1 per hour.
Though they only earn about $1 per hour to risk their lives, every day of work as an inmate firefighter counts as 2 days toward their sentence.
Wait, hold up. inmates get 2 days off their sentence for every day they fight the fire, that's not much of a reduction. Like if I was an inmate, I'd just want to keep the fire going. Yeah. I'd just be out there like, oh no, I accidentally turned my hose to the spread fire setting again. Oh darn. And also, I don't care if they're prisoners. Getting a few dollars a day to fight a wildfire is bullshit. Now, while the prisoners are getting basically nothing for doing a dangerous job, the state of California saves an estimated $100 million a year by using inmates to fight the fires. And what's extra messed up is that despite fighting fires year after year while in prison, many of these inmates aren't allowed to use any of that firefighting experience once they've served their time.
Despite their experience, an inmate firefighter may find it tough to land a full-time job after they complete their sentence. To become a firefighter, most departments require an EMT license, but EMT certifying boards have a pattern of denying applicants with a criminal history.
When they leave that service, they are told they will never, ever be allowed to be a firefighter.
Okay, you gotta admit, that's just shitty. You fight fires in prison, but then when you're released, you're not allowed to do it professionally. So basically, if you're an ex-con walking around and you see a fire, what, you have to commit a crime before they'll let you help? Just like, oh no, that orphanage is on fire. Quick, help me rob this bank. So the question is, should prison firefighters be allowed to enter the noble profession of firefighting after they've served their time? Well, to give us some expert perspective, we're joined by the most noble firefighter of all, Smokey the Bear, everybody. Smokey, where do you stand on the issue of ex-cons working as firefighters?
First of all, Trevor, thanks for inviting a bear onto your show. Hashtag diversity matters. And secondly, I believe ex-cons could make great firefighters. And I'm a living example.
Wait, are you saying that you're an ex-convict?
That's right. Shout out to my boys in San Quentin. Stay hard, my brothers.
Wait, what were you in jail for?
In the 90s, I ran a Ponzi scheme that preyed on the elderly. But I didn't know right from wrong. I was doing a lot of blow.
Damn, that is hardcore. I thought it would be for something like stealing honey or something.
Wow, Trevor, just because I'm a bear, you assume I steal honey? Do I look like Winnie the Pooh? That's racist.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to offend you. I'm sorry.
Okay, I forgive you. See, that's what this country's all about, giving people second chances. That's why anyone who wants to fight fires should be able to. Except for people who won't put out their campfires, those people should have their dicks ripped off by a bear. But not me. I'm still on parole.
Wow, that's pretty extreme.
Not as extreme as discriminating against people who've paid their debt to society. Ex-convicts should be able to train as firefighters. And that's why I'm changing my slogan to, remember, only you and Cell Block D can prevent forest fires.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Smokey the Bear, everyone.
They say crime doesn't pay, but could not crime do pay? I'm here in Stockton, California to find out. Meet Stockton's young gun mayor, Michael Tubbs.
When I first got elected, we had 71 homicides, which is more per capita than Chicago and Afghanistan at the time.
Wow, you made that seriously dark really quick.
It's the truth.
And one solution the mayor is considering is called Advance Peace, which tries to get ahead of gun crime by interceding directly with potential perps.
Advance Peace program works with people who are actually actively shooters.
Violent criminals.
Well, they're technically not criminals. To be a criminal, you have to be convicted.
So I'm not a cheater if I haven't been caught.
Technically.
The mayor was clearly a cool guy, but what about his big idea for solving Stockton's crime problem? Advance Peace takes violent alleged criminals, and offers them 365-day-a-year counseling, job training, mentoring, and one other thing.
Some fellas are eligible for cash incentives.
Cash. You're giving criminals cash money.
The program is intensive, relationship building, case management.
These are a lot of fancy politician words, but your plan for lowering crime is essentially bribery.
Criminals are paid not to commit crime. I'm serious.
Understandably, some on the right thought this was a terrible idea.
Horrible idea.
And so did the citizens of Stockton.
I think it's bull.
How do you really know that they're not firing their weapons? Because they say that they're not firing their weapons?
I don't think it's gonna work.
And they've been blowing up the mayor's Facebook page.
This is like telling your 3-year-old you'll buy them ice cream if they stop throwing a tantrum. What do you say to that, Mayor Tubbs?
You have to read beyond the headline.
Sometimes I don't even have time to read the headline. And now I gotta read the body of the article.
Where did Mayor Tubbs get this criminally stupid idea? I headed to nearby Richmond to meet Devone Bogan. He launched Advance Peace in 2009 in this small California city. Now he's expanding to Sacramento, and Stockton hopes to be next. Devone claims Advance Peace is about more than just cash for crooks.
This is a gun violence reduction strategy.
That's the most bull I've ever heard of, saying we give criminals money.
But try to imagine growing up in a neighborhood where gun violence happens. Try to imagine a young man who's rarely left, not Richmond, but central Richmond.
And that's Devone's reasoning for an even crazier part of this plan.
One of the elements is the transformative travel.
What are you talking about, transformative travel?
Disneyland, Universal Studios.
You've taken suspected firearm offenders to Disneyland?
Yeah.
They're giving alleged criminals cash and vacations?
I can't support a program like this. This goes against who I am, and I'm sorry, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't support this.
You're not going to get your Daily Show check if you don't do it.
That's my check?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Devone, I love it. I love this idea. Let's talk about the results, if there are any.
Well, I can talk about guys who certainly are working good jobs, but we've also got guys who remain involved in selling drugs. Some may maintain some involvement in the pimping world, but we have seen a 71% reduction in gun crimes in this city.
I'm gonna need the number for that guy that's still dealing drugs and the guy that's still pimping. If it's two different numbers, I'll take both.
When you look at the data, the homicide rate in Richmond has overall decreased since Devone started this program in 2009. But still, giving money to alleged criminals? I had to meet some Advanced Peace graduates and ask them the tough questions.
What pays better? Crime or not crime?
No crime. The money is just the bait. You get what I'm saying? They just throw that out there to reel you in.
You gotta do stuff with the money. Hey, did you go get your license?
You gotta complete the goals that they set out. Did you go to that class? And then when you get in, they start to teach you real values that nobody in your life taught you before.
For somebody to come and be like, look, I'm about to do this for you. I'm gonna get you out of Richmond.
You hadn't left Richmond? No. What about you, Levon?
The farthest I went was prison.
Damn, it's not about cash. It's about giving people a bigger picture of the world. Devone's program is changing lives, and maybe it could change Stockton too. But to convince the skeptics, I would have to use everything Advanced Peace taught me. Well, not the counseling and the phone calls and the GED, but just the money part, you know?
This plan is going to work.
You see, social change has a price. You just have to admit it's worth the cost.
If it works, it works.
If it works, it works.
Did I have to pay you to say that?
Not at all.
Not at all. You hear that?
You're welcome, Stockton and Central California Valley.